Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. We're currently on day 23 of Ukraine's special military operation to liberate the people of Kursk. We continue to move forward. Ukrainian Army Chief reports on the offensive. Reporting on the progress, General Zelinskys said that Kyiv's forces now control 1,294 square kilometers and 100 settlements in the Russian border region of Kursk. When we go to the military map, there's not been any official changes the last 2 days, but we do know that Ukrainian forces at the moment are focused on this village right here. This is Corino. There are Russian forces remaining in this village, and there's only one road, resupplying them. So all the Ukrainians have to do is go around through this wooded area, these fields, and cut off this road. And then Ukraine is going to absorb this relatively large settlement for this region. Concerning the Glushkovo district, once again, Ukrainians on the west, to the south and the east, all the bridges have been blown, but there are some Russian forces remaining here. They can't be resupplied, and eventually Ukraine is going to fill in this region when they have the time. It's not a priority. Russia can't hold this, and eventually Ukraine will take this territory. Russia constructs fourth pontoon bridge across the Sam River, according to satellite imagery. So this is the fourth known pontoon bridge. The Russians are trying to resupply their forces in Glushkovo. But these pontoon bridges aren't going to last longer than 6 hours. Eventually a satellite or a drone will spot it, artillery will be called in, or HIMARS, and that's the end of that pontoon bridge. Also, as I suspected, the Ukrainians don't have to take this highway. This is the west-east E38 highway between Kursk and Rilsk. And Ukraine is patrolling the highway now with FPV drones. Anything that looks like a military transport or a valid military target is currently being slammed. So the highway is being restricted. The Russians know they can no longer use this highway. It's not safe for just ordinary transports. So this is a nightmare for Russian logistics and resupplies. They really need this road because, as you can see, there's a lot of empty space here. Just open fields and wooded areas. And if Ukraine can just be within artillery and FPV range of this highway, this is a nightmare for Russian supply lines. So the Russians, I think, are preparing to lose more territory. They continue looting their own towns. This is a supply store in Rilsk. Ukraine has not reached this city. They're nowhere near this city. But Russian soldiers continue to go through any store they please, looting. And they're not looting for military supplies to help them win the war. They're just looting for anything of value, because they don't care about their own cities. Russian forces to face a difficult fight to retake Ukrainian-held area in the Kursk region. This is according to the deputy CIA director. And it's true, Russia's never getting this territory back through military force. I think when there's some kind of resolution to this entire war, either Russia collapses or there's some kind of genuine peace agreement agreed, Ukraine is going to say, give us back all our sovereign territory, we'll give you back all your sovereign territory. But in the short term, long term, whatever, Ukraine is not giving back this Russian territory. This is now a buffer region to protect their people and their cities from Russian artillery on the other side of the border. And it's fascinating for me to watch Kremlin State TV. I love these clips from Russian Media Monitor. The entire clip is 4 minutes. I'll link it down below, but Andrei Fedorov is ashamed of the way Russia's invasion is going. Nothing is said. Nobody appears on Kremlin State TV without the approval of the Kremlin. So Russia's highest levels of government are preparing their people for defeat, for failure, for something less than the full objectives achieved of the special military operation. Let me read for you what this Russian pundit says. Let's not forget that Ukrainian troops have remained on the territory of Kursk region for 21 days. Let me also remind you that 84 days from now, it will be the 1,000th day of the war, Putin's special limited military operation. This is also a disgrace. I remember the way the Great Patriotic War was fought. Let me reiterate, unfortunately, that once again, we are harboring illusions towards Ukraine, that everything is falling apart there, and so on. Pardon me, but this turbojet drone, the Polyanitsia, that is already in production, has a range of 560 kilometers. Their new non-jet drone has a range of 2,000 kilometers. It was also put in production, and will soon be conducting strikes against our factories in the Urals, in Rostov, Belgorod, Kursk, Yaroslavl, Saratov, Engels. All of this is an example of what is happening. Everything you named is being done. So this is the host of the show trying to rebuke him because he's sounding pretty harsh towards Russia. He tries to say that these Ukrainian long-range drones aren't real. It's actually saboteurs inside of Russia causing all this damage. What saboteurs? What are you talking about? Just your regular saboteurs. What saboteurs? In Rostov and Saratov? Saboteurs like you. So this is the host of the show getting hostile with him. Since you are ashamed. He then responds, you wanted the truth, so I'm telling you. As long as we have a flippant attitude towards Ukraine and believe that tomorrow this country will fall apart and crawl to us on its knees, the host then says, who is treating it this way? Who said this even once in this studio, that tomorrow Ukraine will crawl up to us on its knees? Yeah, I'm sure there's a clip of Margarita Simonyan or Soviov saying exactly that, but this is some pretty dark language from Russian pundits being allowed to be spoken on Kremlin State TV to their people, to warn them that things over the next 6 months in Russia will be getting worse. The drone attacks, the jet drone attacks against their factories, oil depots, refineries, any valid military targets, everything is going to get worse for Russia over the next 6 months. Ukrainian forces reportedly attempt to break through in Russia's Belgorod region. According to pro-Kremlin Telegram channels, around 60 Ukrainian soldiers basically crossed the border in a cross-border raid. This is not some new large-scale offensive. I don't think Ukraine has the reserves to do this at this time, but they are going to keep the Russians honest by just poking across the border occasionally in Bryansk or in Belgorod. They're forcing the Russians to take border security everywhere more serious. Does Russia really want a repeat of what happened in Kursk? Staffing 2 defense lines with conscripts who don't want to fight or don't know how to fight. So yeah, Ukraine is going to keep up these cross-border raids to keep the Russians paranoid, keep the Russians thinking, where can this happen next? This is a sad story, but we have to talk about it. F-16 fighter jet crashes in Ukraine, confirmed by the military. The confirmation came after earlier media reports that the aircraft crashed during Russia's massive drone and missile strike on August 26. According to the military, the F-16 shot down 4 Russian cruise missiles, demonstrating high efficiency, but during the approach to the next target, communication with one of the jets was lost. As it turned out later, the plane had crashed and the pilot was killed. This is the Ukrainian pilot. He's been identified. Lieutenant Colonel Alexei Mess, call sign Moonfish, died during the combat mission on August 26th. He was the squadron commander of the 204th Tactical Aviation Brigade. He flew MiG-29s before becoming one of the first Ukrainian pilots to master the F-16. This is not a video game. We can't just drop planes into a country without the maintenance and logistics supply lines to keep them flying. These are the most complicated machines in the world. And Russia launched the largest drone and missile attack ever on Monday night. This pilot was frantically doing his best to hit as many of these cruise and ballistic missiles as he could to save lives. I'm sure he was pushing himself and the jet to its limits, once again to try to save lives, and either it was a mechanical failure or, heaven forbid, operator error, or worse of all, friendly fire. When you think how many different units and different air defense systems they have in Ukraine trying to shoot down hundreds of missiles and drones, I hope it wasn't friendly fire, but this is a real possibility. This is the impossible defensive scenario that Ukraine is currently locked in, even when they're given the best tools, such as F-16s and Patriots and NASAMS. This won't be the last time that Ukraine loses an F-16 or one of their best pilots. This is war, but all of these people know what they're fighting for, and they're not going to stop until Ukraine is free and secure from the Russians, and the Russians are defeated. Russian forces make relatively rapid advance near Donetsk's Kursk. This is the axis that Russia is the most focused on right now. They're willing to allocate all the resources needed to continue making progress towards Kursk. So unfortunately for the city, they're now clearly within artillery range. This is 17 kilometers to safely fire from Russian-held territory. And they're just going to use North Korean artillery to destroy every single building in this town, flatten everything so they can eventually take it. And the Russians are convinced this city is the key to this region of Donetsk because it's a logistics hub. There's the highways going north as well as south, but it's also a quadruple junction for Ukraine's rail network. So if Kursk is destroyed or cut off, maintaining these defense lines through the rest of this region to the south and to the north is going to be a lot more difficult. But I want to talk about the humanitarian crisis. Tearful families evacuate as Russian forces advance towards Kursk. Russian forces are now advancing towards the city, and families with children are being ordered to evacuate. These are the final days of a completely peaceful town. Pre-war population greater than 60,000. Nobody here wants the Russians to come. These people just want to live in peace as citizens of Ukraine. So I want to share this video of a Ukrainian mother tearfully leaving her hometown, leaving her home, locking her door for the final time, knowing that she's probably not going to be able to come back to anything.
Дуже важко осмілитися, взяти ключі і закрити свої двері назавжди. Коли ти знаєш, що ти більше не повернешся, коли ти прощаєшся з усім, з рідними подушками, з твоїми квітами, які ти мусиш викинути і залишити назавжди, тому що ти знаєш, що ти більше сюди не приїдеш. Коли ти ввечері виглядаєш в вікно і бачиш навпроти одне, яке світиться, і ти розумієш, що скоро і навіть воно потухне. І разом з цим цей біль тебе пронцає, що це назавжди. Ти можеш купити собі безліч будинків, але ніколи не купиш рідний дім, ніколи не купиш рідну школу. Ми залишаємо тут серце. Як би не було боляче, ми їдемо, ми залишаємось в Україні. І дуже сподіваємось на підтримку і розуміння.
You can always buy a new house, but that doesn't make it a home. The place you grew up, the place your parents lived, these people are leaving behind family burial plots where their loved ones have been buried for generations. And the Russians are going to flatten and burn all of it. They're going to kill these people if they remain. So here's Zelensky's rebuttal. Up to 60,000 Russian soldiers could face disaster in Kursk. President Zelensky reported that Russian forces are attempting to replicate the capture of Bakhmut, but this time the city of Kursk. It's the same pattern repeating. From Mariupol to Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, Avdiivka, Bakhmut, the Russians are going to roll up to this city and just start destroying every single building until Ukrainian defenders can't even stay there anymore. This is what's going to happen. We're all going to have to watch this over the next 6 months to a year. I don't think Russia is going to take this anytime soon, but every update, we're going to get more pictures and videos of the devastation, of the destruction of this city, where just people want to live their lives. It's sad. Other story, Russia moves 90% of its aircraft outside of ATACMS range, according to the Wall Street Journal. Yeah, Russia kind of saw this coming. I do think the United States and President Biden at some point in the next 2 or 3 months is going to change this policy, and any provided Western weapon can be used anywhere on the territory of Russia. Maybe not the Kremlin, maybe not central Moscow, but definitely within 300 kilometers in ATACMS range, things will start going boom. But the United States, by blocking this, by not changing the policy rapidly, gave the Russians time to relocate all their bombers, relocate their fighters. They're still keeping some aircraft and helicopters within the range because of their own limitations on distance, but there's discussions happening now. John Kirby, the coordinator of strategic communications at the White House, acknowledged that negotiations with Ukraine regarding the possibility of extending the range of American weapon strikes into Russian territory is ongoing, but remains confidential. Ukraine's not waiting for permission. They're taking initiative on their own. New Ukrainian drone missile, the Polyanitsia, costs less than $1 million. This was unveiled to the public this week. And now that we have pictures and videos, we don't know the exact price tag, less than $1 million, but you can see from the body is 3D printed. Most of the plane is probably 3D printed. So what costs up to $1 million? And I'm sure it's the jet engine, it's the payload, it's the circuit boards and processors and chips inside the missile. But let's hope that they can start mass producing these pretty rapidly. It'd be fantastic if Ukraine could pump out multiple of these a day and send them off somewhere into Russia to go boom. You might have heard this story. Belarus is amassing their forces at the Ukrainian border. I know other YouTubers have talked about this. Is Belarus about to invade Ukraine? And no, Lukashenko's an idiot. He's a coward. If he wanted to invade Ukraine, he would have done it 2.5 years ago. He's just trying to keep himself alive, trying to keep his people from murdering him like Gaddafi. So no, he's not going to commit his military forces to invade Ukraine, but he's willing to do Putin a favor and just send them all to the border to give Ukraine something to worry and think about. That's just my prediction. I could be wrong. The Russians and the Belarusians aren't very bright. They've made numerous stupid strategic decisions, and Belarus attacking Ukraine is definitely still possible, but not likely or intelligent in my opinion. What about that oil depot fire in Rostov? Here's a video on day 10. It's currently day 12, and I think more or less the oil depot fire is out. But this entire oil storage facility has been completely destroyed. I'll link this video down below if you want to see more of what this oil depot looks like after being on fire for 12 days. And Ukraine did it again. Ukrainian drone strike sparks another oil depot fire in Russia's Rostov region. So the other one was located more down here, but this different oil storage facility is just on the other side of the Ukrainian border. And it's called the Atlas Oil Plant near the village of Kamensky. There's videos online. I'll link these down below if you want to see them. And it might be the same chain reaction occurring. You strike 2 of the containers, They ignite, they burn, they kind of do damage and cook the next one, and it's this popcorn effect over multiple days or even weeks. Can Russia put out the fire and isolate it? Stop these other storage tankers from going up? I don't know. If they couldn't do it 2 weeks ago, they just might not have the manpower, resources, or equipment to effectively fight this fire before all the canisters eventually blow. Videos online. Once again, Russia, you have the best oil depot fires in the world. Congratulations, but I mean, it's just massive to see. First ever drone strike hits Russia's Kursk Oblast, an oil depot. This is 1,500 kilometers from Ukraine. This is where this is located on the map, and we do have a video of the drone flying at the depot, but it looks like the fire and the damage isn't as extensive as other places. There's always tomorrow night. Ukraine can always strike it again. So here's the beauty. This is some actually insightful analysis from the Russian political blogger Anatoly Nemzimyan about the damage to the Russian oil industry being inflicted currently by Ukrainians. Kyiv strikes on oil facilities have two dimensions. The operational dimension, the fires burn fuel that has already been produced and could have been used, either for the economy or military needs. But there's also the strategic dimension of what Ukraine is doing to all these oil depots and refineries. Storage facilities are an integral part of the production chain, and if storage capacity is reduced, then production must also be reduced. Finished products need to be stored somewhere. Although fuel storage facilities themselves are not very complex technology, and if desired can be built quite quickly, if we are talking about long-term storage facilities, these complexes take years to build, starting with the design, land allocation, and ending with the creation of logistics for the delivery and collection of finished products. Infrastructure is the basis of normal economic activity, and it is precisely this that is being destroyed right now. It is worth saying that the results are already clearly there. Information on the production and processing of oil products by the Kremlin is now classified. So initially, I thought going after oil depots wasn't as valuable. The crude oil being stored and the canister itself is not very expensive. Oil refineries are better targets because of the expensive equipment used in the refining process. But by getting rid of all of these storage sites, Russia has nowhere to put the oil they pull out of the ground or their refined oil products. So they have to stop producing. There's nowhere to put it. The oil wells don't have to be attacked. If there's nowhere to store it, there's no reason to pump it. This is brilliant, and Russia's in serious trouble. This is why Putin is so desperate for a ceasefire. This is why Putin is willing to give up dissidents and release US citizens for just open lines of dialogue with the West. He wants a freeze in the conflict to stop the hemorrhaging of all of his refineries and depots. There also was a coal fire burning plant in Novomichurynsk. This is the Ryazan Oblast, 500 kilometers from Ukraine. Some kind of fire occurred there, but it's unclear if Ukraine had anything to do with this. Ukraine downs another Russian Su-25 aircraft in Donetsk. One less problem for our infantry. There is a video online. I'll link it down below if you want to see it. I'm pretty confident the pilot did not survive. An FSB colonel choked and died on his dinner. Maxim Yermin died of mechanical asphyxia on August 25th during dinner. He choked on a piece of meat. He was 50 years old. Glory to the beef. I don't know. Turkey will abandon the Russian S-400 to buy American F-35s. This was a huge story back in 2018 or 19 that Turkey announced they wanted Russian air defense systems. At the time, they were in the F-35 program because Turkey's a member of NATO. And the United States told Turkey no. You can't have Russian air defense systems and American fighter jets. So Turkey was kicked out of the F-35 program. Turkey said it was fine. They said they would rather have Russian air defense systems. But now that we're 2.5 years into this war, Turkey's feeling less confident about having Russian air defense systems, and they would rather have American F-35 fighter jets. This war has been a disaster for Russia's arms export industry. One, Russia doesn't have a surplus to export anymore, but just their military has performed so bad. Russia's prestige and standing in the world has fallen so dramatically. Who wants to spend their money on Russian military equipment when it's obvious stuff coming from NATO partners is a lot better? This is kind of funny. Russian TV to premiere a Joe Biden comedy series in 2025. In Russia, they're filming a comedy series in which Joe Biden travels undercover to Russia to find out why sanctions aren't working, but loses his passport and ends up living in a Soviet-era flat working as an English teacher so he can afford to get back home to America. Please, Russia, I beg you, please release this to the public. I have to see this. But the Russians are so dumb, they're releasing this in 2025. Joe Biden leaves office on January 20th, 2025. He's officially done, retired. We're going to have a different president. I don't know if the producers of the show were told that, but I don't know why anyone would want to watch this if Biden is no longer president. Telegram boss Durov released for court appearance in Paris. This got a lot of strong comments from my last video. The CEO of Telegram, for some reason, flew to France knowing he'd be arrested. He was held for 48 hours and then released on bail. He's not allowed to leave France. He's going to have to appear in court probably in a couple weeks, but what's really happening here? By taking aim at Telegram, France puts free speech in the crosshairs. So the debate in the comments section is Telegram a tool? You know, if somebody drives a truck into a crowd and kills a bunch of people, do we ban all trucks? No, that's absurd. Same analogy with a gun or a knife or a rope or whatever. But with these social media platforms, Telegram is not a tool. Telegram is a place. It's a digital place where people are congregating to commit crimes. Now, there's lots of law-abiding people using Telegram to express their opinion, exercise their right to free speech. But if it's obvious that terrorist organizations are recruiting, money laundering is occurring, assassinations are being planned, children are being abducted and abused, and Telegram is the place where it's occurring, where people go for the encryption and the anonymity, then I argue, yes, the people who work at Telegram are legally and ethically obligated to cooperate with investigators to prevent violent crimes. I don't want to see anyone's opinions or free speech curtailed. I'm in favor of low censorship. But if people are being murdered, if terrorists are recruiting new fighters, and there's evidence that it's occurring on Telegram, and governments present this evidence to the employees of Telegram, I'm sorry, I don't have sympathy for protecting what's happening there. So I know I'm going to get pushback. I'll go ahead and admit to you guys, I could be biased. I don't have or use Telegram. Most people in America don't. And if I had a Telegram channel with 500,000 subscribers or followers, then maybe I would be saying something different right now. So it's easy for me to be critical of the platform when I don't use it. So I just want to throw out my disclaimer. This isn't up to me, guys. This is going to be settled in European courts, I think. But here's the concern for this Pavel guy. Given what he knows and what he can reveal, as well as what Russian intelligence does in European countries, if I were the Telegram guy, I'd instead ask to be kept in France's highest security prison. So this is actually a problem. How does Pavel now convince Moscow he didn't give anything up? He didn't reveal anything. The Russian government uses Telegram for communications. The Russian military uses Telegram to coordinate military actions. And this guy was just in French custody for 2 days. Is he now at risk of being assassinated by the Kremlin for fear that he could cooperate with NATO partners in collecting sensitive Russian government and military operations and giving that information to Ukraine? It's possible. I'm not saying it's happening, but it's something for everyone now to consider and think about, including the man, Pavel Durov. Let's get to the good news for Ukraine. Military aid package from Lithuania arrives. Thank you so much to the wonderful people of Lithuania. Ukraine receives a 2S1 artillery system from Finland. Thank you so much to the amazing people of Finland. Final clip I want to share with you is once again ordinary Ukrainians taking shelter in the metro stop. Sometimes they have to be down there 8, 9, or 10 hours waiting for the all clear. And this is ordinary Ukrainians singing songs to pass the time.
Постоїть за свободу, як не ти, якщо не я. Хлопці, гуртуймося, дівчата, єднаймося, час кличе знову нас. Праці не біймося, борні, не лякаймося, бо це останній шанс. Знов собачі сини заважали війни, крові прагнуть вони.
That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.